Up and loaded here. Hello, Facebook. Hi, Instagram. We are back for our weekly workshop. I will be here on Mondays and Wednesdays around 10 a.m. Central Time to go through our topics for the week. So I'm super excited for today. We are diving into the Enneagram and essential oils. And I discovered the Enneagram last year. Wasn't quite too sure what to think in the beginning, but as I've done more research and diving into it more, I've developed an appreciation for what the Enneagram has helped me discover. So, quick review. Last week we talked about natural solutions for healthy, empowered living. We talked about a happy, healthy home. So if you missed those workshops, you can either find them on my Facebook newsfeed, on my business page. You can go to my website at livingfreeandnatural.com under resources, under courses, or you can check out my YouTube channel, and these are up on the workshop playlist. And these all come with the workshop notes. It comes with the PowerPoint. I've added in additional resources for you, so feel free to check those out. But today we're going to dive into the Enneagram and essential oils and what you can use based on your Enneagram number. So when I first discovered the Enneagram, I was a 7, or I still am a 7. It's not like it changed, but I wasn't really sure what to think about being a 7. My first reaction was, cool, I'm the enthusiast, I'm the clown, nobody's going to take me seriously. And I didn't really like that feeling, but as I dove into researching what is the Enneagram and the ins and outs of it, I began to see that it's a tool to kind of discover your more self-awareness and explore greater freedom and not be connected to your identity, if that makes sense. One disclaimer I do want to have is that I don't worship the Enneagram. I don't look at the Enneagram as like, oh my gosh, this is the way, this is how everything has to be done, this is who I am. No, that's not good. Those aren't good things to do. So I worship Jesus. He is my only solution, number one, period. Not the Enneagram, not any of those other things. So you have to be very careful when you're looking into these things that you don't become so connected to it and feel like this is what is going to solve all your life problems. It's a tool, it's a resource, but I go to Jesus first. So I kind of just want to put out that disclaimer there. Yeah. Let's see. So what the Enneagram has been useful for is providing indicators of growth and health as I seek greater freedom and awareness on who I am, how I'm wired to be, those types of things. So that's where the Enneagram for me has become very useful, and I've seen growth happen. But again, I always go back to worshiping Jesus first. So I have on here, real quick, some of you that have already been on here for a couple workshops, I'm just going to go through this really quick. I am not a doctor. I am a holistic health coach. I'm a mom that uses natural solutions as a prevention and the first approach to supporting our bodies to heal. A lot of what I share is experience-based. So even with the Enneagrams today and the oils, I am not an expert in the Enneagram, and I do have a list of accounts that I recommend you follow if you're interested in learning more about the ins and the outs, how the Enneagram came to be, all that jazz. I am not an expert at it. I'm just sharing what I find interesting and have been curious about and what I've researched on my own. And then I also value the knowledge and expertise of medical professionals. So what? That was a little obnoxious. So when we are looking at integrating Eastern and Western medicine, incorporating that holistic health approach, I always do see a doctor if I'm like really not feeling good and trying to work together as a team. So I do value the medical professional field and their years of experience and knowledge and school and all that stuff. Okay, so these are the Enneagram accounts that I follow. Enneagram Mag is a recent one that I discovered, and they're actually, I think they're local in Minnesota. I'll have to double check on that. But they came out with this beautiful magazine. You guys, it is like the best thing ever. So they're Enneagram Meg, and a lot of the descriptions that I'm going to be going through in today's workshop actually come from this book here. So I do want to reference them and give them a shout out. They do an awesome job. It's nice too to have like a book like this versus always just going on Instagram and having to find the information. I love this tool. So again, they're Enneagram Meg, M-A-G. And this is on the PowerPoint. So if you're over on Instagram, you can hop over to Facebook to see the PowerPoint live. Otherwise, this will be posted in the notes. The other Instagram accounts that I follow is Enneagram Explained, Enneagram Enthusiast, Enneagram and Coffee, Enneagram Ashton. So those are really great accounts to follow if you want to learn more about the specifics of the Enneagram. But what I'm going to dive into is the different numbers and then what oils that you can use based on that number. So the first one that I want to dive into is Enneagram number 1. So if you have this number, you are the reformer. And this is one thing that I really like about this magazine is, sorry, one second. My computer's going to die. What's new? It's going through like basic desires, fears, motivations, and things like that. So if you are like, yeah, this sounds like me, that's one way to find out. Otherwise, you can take the test. I do have the link at the end of the PowerPoint for figuring out what your Enneagram number is. But the Enneagram number 1 is the reformer. The basic desire is to be good, to have integrity, and to be balanced. So their basic fear is of being bad, being imbalanced, defective, and corrupt. A wounded message. So when they hear it's not okay to make mistakes. Oh, good, Tiffany. Yeah, definitely come back and watch this. I love the Enneagrams. The wounded message for them is it's not okay to make mistakes. So when they hear this, that can really affect the Enneagram 1 types. The core motivation for them is to have improvement, to being right, and free from correction. And then a core belief that they carry, and sometimes with these core beliefs, it's also a false self, like on their what they believe in themselves. It's not true. So for them, their core belief is you are good or okay if you do what is right. And that can be very damaging. So their healing message is you are good, okay? Now, like I said, I'm not an expert in these things. I'm not going to really try to explain what all of this means. If you are really interested in the breakdown of all this, I would recommend going to follow those accounts, taking the test, getting that information. But we're just covering like the basics of this. So the fundamental emotion of the reformer, of the Enneagram 1, is anger. They process anger by internalizing it. It may be expressed through the body, and they respond instinctively from the gut to avoid fault and blame. So recommended oils. I'm just going to breeze through these guys. Again, it's going to be in the notes. It's going to be in the PowerPoint. So recommended oils that you can use for this fundamental emotion of anger is cardamom, digest zen, fennel, forgive, geranium, ginger, marjoram, thyme, serenity, and ylang-ylang. So those are really great oils to have on hand when you're dealing with this fundamental emotion of anger and how it's being processed for a reformer. They're processing this anger internally. So one thing to consider, so these are called the invitations. So an invitation for ones is to embrace the word growth. Whatever grows is not yet perfect, but it's on the way. And I just think it's beautiful. It's so cool. All right, so the blend, and this is on the PowerPoint, is a diffuser blend. So it's bergamot, wild orange, and Hawaiian sandalwood. And the picture on there has how many drops to put on there. So I'm not going to go through all of those with the different numbers because there's 9 of them. But you can see on there, it's bergamot, wild orange, and Hawaiian sandalwood is a great diffuser blend to use for the reformers. All right, Enneagram number 2 is the helper. So the basic desire for the helper is to feel love. Their basic fear is being unloved, unappreciated, and unwanted. The wounded message that they hear is it's not okay to have your own needs. Their core motivation is to be loved, needed, and appreciated by others. Their core belief of false self is you are okay if you are loved by others. and their healing message is you are wanted. So you can kind of start seeing how these desires and fears and these messages or things that they tell themselves can be damaging. So when you recognize what number that you are, you can discover these things and move in the direction of the healing message, right? So the fundamental emotion for the helper is shame. They focus outwardly on the needs of others and seek affirmation of love from others to avoid acknowledging their own needs. So I don't know if you guys know a helper, but they are all about what can I do for every single other person around me versus saying, hey, I have my own needs. These are things that I need to be met. So just something to keep in mind. The recommended oils for the helper are bergamot, cassia, console, frankincense, grapefruit, jasmine, lemon, rose, and slim and sassy. And the invitation message for twos is, an invitation for a two is to freedom. Real freedom, for which the two deeply longs, ends the game of manipulation and false love, of dependency and violent attempts at self-liberation. So really crucial there. Where did my, oh, there we go. Okay, so the diffuser blend for the Enneagram is Serenity, Citrus Bliss, and Balance. Isn't that amazing? Those are three amazing blends that I love using, very calming, grounding oils. I think we even had a promo once with those three. Anyways, so that is the helper. Enneagram 3, the achiever, I actually have a couple friends who are 3s, and 3s and 7s work really well together. We can also not work well together, but understanding how these profiles work with the numbers, we've been able to work that into our relationships and understand each other more, which has been really helpful. Okay, so the achiever, their basic desire is to feel valuable. Their basic fear is of being worthless. A wounded message is it's not okay to have your own feelings and identity. Core motivation, admiration, affection, avoiding failure. Their core belief or false self is you are good or okay if you are successful and others think well of you. That can be a little scary. The healing message is you are loved for yourself. So again, knowing how 3s can be, and I've seen different level variations of a 3, whether they're in a good place or a bad place, but success is a huge driving factor for them. And if they're not feeling successful, whatever they determine success to be can be damaging. And I've seen that happen for some. So their fundamental emotion is the same as a 2. It's shame, but for them, they focus on their own success, seek recognition for it to avoid the feeling of failure. So same oils that were recommended for the helper, so I won't go through those again. And then the invitation for the 3 is to hope. Only a hope that goes beyond ostensible successes can help a 3 acquire depth and put up with momentary failure. So I think it's good for 3s to experience that failure that can happen momentarily and be able to move past it and not have identity into what defines them as far as their success and things like that. So again, you guys, I highly recommend taking the Enneagram just to have a better understanding and like I said, a tool and resource. Okay, Enneagram 4, the individualist. They have a basic desire to be true to oneself. Their basic fear is of having no identity or significance. Their wounded message is it's not okay to be too functional or too happy. Their core motivation is authenticity, beauty, and emotional honesty. Their core belief or false self is you are good or okay if you are true to yourself. And healing messages for them are you are seen for who you are. So again, you guys, this is some deep work stuff. I wouldn't say this is surface level, oh, I'll just read this and I can work through things. I would really recommend having time to understand your Enneagram number, all the different levels of desire and fear and messages or things that you're telling yourself, or maybe what people have been telling you, and really work towards breaking from that. And again, this is where my foundation is in Jesus, and he's the one that I go to work through these things. So as I discovered more about myself and how I function, I was able to then go to God and say, hey, I need help in this area. And we'll get to a 7 in a little bit, and I'll describe a few more things with that. But always stick to your foundation and your core of what's going to help you heal and process things, and not put the focus on this is how I am and things can't change, or you don't want to go down a dark path. So the fundamental emotion for the individualist is also shame, except they focus their attention inwardly. So remember, 2s, the helpers, they went outwardly. They were all about helping the other people and not acknowledging their own needs. But for a 4, they focus their attention inwardly on their own feelings and seek recognition for their uniqueness and originality to avoid feeling ordinary. And they had the same oil recommendations as the 2 and 3s. So an invitation for 4s is a call to originality. If they can admit that they live in God and God in them, their soul will come to the rest and balance they have long yearned for. So I think that's pretty cool. The blend for them is grapefruit, petitgrain, and black spruce. And you guys, I am all about black spruce right now. Where is my other resource book? Hold on one second. So the Essential Life book, this is another one of my favorite resources, is it talked about one of the emotional things with black spruce. Excuse me. So feeling unable to influence, set back by limiting beliefs of others, and unforgiving. So it kind of just reminded me of this part, is that limiting belief. So if you got black spruce and you have some limiting beliefs, I would definitely start using it for emotional purposes. Okay, let's see here. All right, on to Enneagram 5. So these are the investigators. They have a basic desire to be capable and competent. They have a basic fear of being overwhelmed, helpless, incompetent, and incapable. Their wounded message is it's not okay to be comfortable in the world. Their core motivation is anatomy, preparation, and to possess knowledge. Their core belief or false self is you are good or okay if you have thoroughly mastered something. And their healing message is your needs are not a problem. So their fundamental emotion is fear. And these are for 5s, 6s, and 7s. Fear is the driving factor or driving emotion for them. They externalize their fear. They may isolate themselves when experienced to avoid relying on others. So that's just another thing to keep in mind, is if you're a 5 and you start feeling like you're isolating yourself, that is something that you're going to want to work through and address. So the recommended oils for them, and this will be for 6s and 7s too, is cassia, cinnamon bark, console, cypress, jasmine, juniper berry, lavender, myrrh, passion, and peace. And I actually put passion on today, more so for it's Valentine's week and it's a good perfume to have in your hair, but I know passion works well for my Enneagram number. All right, so the invitation to 5s is wisdom. Wisdom is a deep knowledge of the connections of the world and life that must be won, not only from thought, but at the same time from real life experiences. So the blend for them is cinnamon bark, lemon, and coriander. All right, 6s. They are the loyalists. And I know a 6, they're incredible. They are the ones that are there. They're showing up. They're dedicated. But you can also see where the line gets drawn or boundaries are pushed. So if you're a loyalist, pay attention to that. But they have a basic desire to have security and support. Their basic fear is of being without support, validation, or guidance. Their wounded message is it's not okay to trust yourself. Their core motivation is safety, reassurance, validation from others. And their core belief or false self is you are good or okay if you cover all the bases and do what is expected of you. And their healing message is you are safe. So their fundamental emotion is fear. They internalize the fear and they shift to worst case scenario thinking to avoid feeling safe. So they have, something comes up, they immediately go to that worst case scenario. And that's a way for them to avoid feeling safe. Again, the recommended oils are the same as for 5s. And the invitation to 6s is faith. Faith in the biblical sense does not mean maintaining that certain assertions are true. Rather, it is a relationship of trust between humanity and God. and that's pretty cool. The blend for them is lavender, cedarwood, and bergamot. Okay, 7s. This is me. The word enthusiast, spontaneous, distracted, scattered, versatile, the fun-loving type, the busy. That's what I didn't like when I first saw this. I was like, no, I want to be serious. I wanted to be the achiever. I wanted the success. And instead I felt like I was the jokester. But I'm coming to embrace that and seeing the value and what I can bring to my relationships and to myself and my work and my family. And it's really cool once you can kind of get past if you're like, I don't like this number. And again, I also don't let it define who I am. So for 7s, like myself, we have a basic desire to be satisfied and content. We have a fear of being trapped in pain and deprivation. Our wounded message is it's not okay to depend on anyone for anything. Our core motivation is variety, optimism, and to escape anxiety. Our core belief, our false self, is you are good or okay if you feel good and are getting what you want. And our healing message is you'll be taken care of. So the fundamental emotion for 7s is fear. We forget the fear in an effort to avoid pain by seeking new and exciting adventures. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into this one because I have experience. I am a 7, so I can speak more to these things. And what I've had to work through in the last couple of years as I'm discovering things about myself and in my relationships and with work and, life's changing is that I would be an avoider. And I went through therapy this last year and I would avoid conversations. I would avoid conflict. I would just pretend like, nope, we're fine. We don't need to discuss this. We don't need to have a conversation. I would just sweep it under the rug. But inside I was like pissed, right? Like things would start piling up and I would get angry and I would have outbursts and I would be seen like I'm a crazy person because suddenly things got overwhelming for me because I didn't want to face the feeling of feelings, basically. I didn't want to feel sad. I didn't want to feel angry. I even reached a place where I was emotionless. I didn't want to feel emotions. And that was a very dark and scary place last year. And trying to figure out like loving in my relationships and my friendships and my kids even, like it was dark. So earlier when I was saying like my foundation is Jesus, he is the one that I go to. That is still 100% true. But what I had was a resource that like broke down things for me. Like, Michelle, you're running away. You face problems and you turn around and you're like Forrest Gump, like running 300 miles across the country, like 3,000 miles, not 300. And I wouldn't face issues head on and I wouldn't process things. I would just ignore them. And through understanding this, I was then able to pray and go to God and have a conversation and say, I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to sweep my emotions under the rug. I want to feel and express and process. And it's still a work in progress for me. But I had a major breakthrough at the end of January, and I've really been able to see clearly that I have to feel an emotion. I have to acknowledge it. I have to not necessarily appreciate it, but just say, thank you for allowing me to process this a certain way. And then I can move on from whatever it was I was feeling, whether it's sadness or joy or fear or anger. And like I said, I'm still working on it. There's still moments where I see myself going to my old ways of ignoring, and I have to force myself to be uncomfortable. And I don't like conflict. And so when I have to have those conflicting conversations or hard conversations, it's really uncomfortable for me. And so I've been able to take the Enneagram, the tools and the resources, and with my spiritual practice of God and having that relationship with him, I've really been able to have a breakthrough this year. And It's been amazing. So, like I said, this is a really great tool and resource to have. Bring it to your foundation principle of faith and your relationship with God. And yeah, you can see really, really cool things happen. So, recommended oils, the same one as the other two. So the invitation for sevens is cooperation with God. Unredeemed sevens think that they are the fashioneers of their own happiness, and so they continually plan new ways of optimizing their lives. When they cooperate with God, that implies something different. They confront the reality of the world, which is always a combination of joy and pain, and they accept both sides of life. And so that's kind of where I'm at, you guys. I'm accepting the good and I'm accepting the bad, and just knowing that it's a part of how life runs on earth. So the blend for sevens is cypress, lime, and spearmint. So I'm actually going to diffuse that later today and try it out. Okay, we have 2 more left. Oh. All right, so Enneagram 8s, they are the challengers. I actually wing 8, so even though I'm the enthusiast, I can get challenging sometimes, which is super fun. But the basic desire for 8s is to protect themselves. Their basic fear is of being harmed, controlled, violated. Their wounded message is it's not okay to be vulnerable or to trust anyone. And I think this is where, with my 7 and my wing 8, I was really in that dark place. I didn't have really any trust for anybody. The core motivation is control, impact, and self-reliance. Their core belief or false self is you are good or okay as long as you are strong and in control of the situation. And their healing message is you will not be betrayed. So for 8s, their fundamental emotion is anger. They process anger consciously and respond strong to avoid feeling weak or vulnerable. So I don't know if some of you have met 8s, but they can be pretty tough. Same recommended oils for what we went through with the reformer with wines: cardamom, digestin, fennel, forgive, geranium, ginger, marjoram, thyme, serenity, and ylang-ylang. And then the invitation for 8s is mercy. Unredeemed 8s are merciless towards themselves and others. The only encounter with truth can set them free and enable them to see and accept their own weakness. From this experience, they can learn to endure and accept the weaknesses of other people. So the blend for challengers is bergamot, marjoram, and lavender. All right, and the final Enneagram number is the peacemaker. I think so far I know a couple 2s. I mean that I know their numbers. So I know a 2, I know a couple 3s, I know a 4, I know a 5, I know a 6, I'm a 7, I know another 7, I know a couple of 8s, and then I know a couple of 9s. But essentially, they are the peacemakers. Their basic desire is to have peace of mind and wholeness. Their basic fear is of having loss, separation, and fragmentation. A wounded message is it's not okay to assert yourself. Core motivation, avoid conflict, maintain harmony, and preservation. Their core belief or false self is you are good or okay if you're at peace and others are at peace. And the healing message is your presence matters. So for them, their fundamental emotion is anger, which is kind of surprising to me because if they're the peacemakers, they want everything to just be peaceful and wholeness, is that they process anger unconsciously and rarely respond to avoid conflict. So they have the same oils recommended for 1s and 8s. And the invitation of 9s is unconditional love. 9s need the experience of being wanted, of being important, or of having something to give. They have to learn that others, God and their fellow men and women, believe in them so that they can believe in themselves. And the blend for peacemakers is peppermint, ginger, and cheer. So there's all the numbers, you guys. I hope that was interesting to learn about. Like I said, I've done a lot of research on the Enneagram. I love it as a tool and resource. So if you haven't taken the test yet, take the test. I have it linked up here on the PowerPoint, and I also will have it in the workshop notes. But it's basically www.truity.com, and then from there you can take the test, and it's a free one. You don't have to pay for it, and it's a really cool tool and resource that I've discovered. All right, so last but not least, we are going to talk quickly about welcoming doTERRA into your life. So maybe you've enjoyed this workshop today, learning about the Enneagrams, learning about how the oils can support you when you're processing your fundamental emotion, and the diffuser blend that was specific to your Enneagram number. So if this is something that you're interested in, you can go to my website at livingfreeandnatural.com. Click on the doTERRA at 25% off. It has all the information there on how you can get started with doTERRA, as well as the promotions that we are running this month, which are incredible, by the way. And then our Live Happy community. So Emily and I created this community here in Minnesota. We are expanding across the country, but we have an online space on Facebook and Instagram. We are the Live Happy community, and we are connecting people to wellness and advocating for a better future. We live life joyously and deliver hope to others. So if you want to be a part of that, you can get started today. Or if you know somebody that is in doTERRA that you want to join their community, definitely go and do that. We just want everyone to be in the space of using the oils and moving the needle in their life in a better direction. And then we have our business mentorship. So if you are enjoying using the products, maybe you haven't started yet, but you're looking forward to wanting to get started and to starting your own business, there's 3 things that I recommend you do. Live, use your products daily, be immersed in the product, share with your family and friends. You know, those are the people that we care the most about. We want to see their lives change. And then you can create your community. You can start expanding, whether you want to do that in person or you want to do it online. But with Live Happy Community, you get a class and business toolkit, you get incentives for your new community members, weekly coaching calls with me, monthly team webinars and business support emails, and online and local marketing strategies. So I hope this was great, you guys. I hope you learned a ton of stuff today about Enneagrams and oils. I'm not an expert. There's still so much I could learn about the different Enneagrams and even myself, but I highly recommend it. So please go and take that test, figure out what number you are, follow those Instagram accounts that I recommended, go get the Enneagram magazine, and stay rooted in your beliefs as well. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we will be back here Wednesday. We are talking about loving yourself and others in your relationships, because it's going to be Valentine's Day on Friday and it's all about love this month. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for joining me live and then catching the replay. Have a great day.